recording it, but welcome everyone to Clinical One orientation. A very, very exciting semester awaits you all. We really see this as kind of the culminating year of your experience here at Montclair State, and it's a really exciting time for all of you to get a chance to take what you've learned over all of your courses at Montclair State and put it into action working with students in the classroom. So we're excited for all of you to join us, and we're even more excited for what lies ahead for all of you. All right, so we'll start off. Well, first of all, congratulations on reaching this phase as well. We want you to start strong and stay inspired. I always think of this time as a way to make sure that you are confident. I know a lot of you may have some nerves right now, which is completely expected. Someone once told me that if you're nervous, it shows that you care, which I think is a good way to kind of think of it. If you have some nerves stepping into Clinical One, that's a sign that you really care and you're passionate about this work. So making sure, though, that you are going in with the confidence that all that you've learned here so far will certainly make you well equipped to teach in the classroom, but also making sure that you're staying curious and open to learning from your cooperating teacher, other teachers you may interact with at your school, your seminar professor, your mentor, your peers that you're going to be talking with in seminars. So all of these people kind of make up this professional learning community that you have the opportunity to learn alongside during Clinical One and Clinical Two. So we hope you embrace that process. And we're all excited to be, just a small part of that journey on the side. All right, so we'll start out with some introductions before we get into breakout rooms. So my name is Dr. Priya Valetti. I am a professor in the department, as many of you know. I'm also helping out with a lot of the clinical revision work. So you'll see my name pop up. You may get emails from me, but really just kind of overseeing some of the seminar work and the clinical work. So excited to be here today. I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Diana, if you want to go next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana Troutner. I'm the Clinical Partnership Coordinator, and I work with cooperating teachers and a variety of other roles as well. And you may see me in your schools this semester. And I'll pass it over to Dr. Davis.
Hi, friends. Dr. Davis here. I am the Graduate Program Coordinator for K6 programs, and I will pass it over to Dr. Paul. You're muted, Dr. Paul.
Thank you for that, Dr. Davis. Okay, I am Dr. Deirdre Glenn Paul. I am professor of literacy specialization. I teach the READ courses. And in addition to that, I'm P3K6 undergraduate program coordinator, and that's why I'm here today. Okay, Ms. Martino, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Paul. Hi,
Sure.
welcome everyone. I'm Gina Martino. I'm the program specialist for P3 and K6. And I know most of you know I am responsible for securing your placements for Clinical One and Two. So it's nice to see some faces to the names, and congratulations.
Dr. Bacon, would you want to go next?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Dr. Bacon.
Hi, everybody. I am Jessica Bacon, and I am program coordinator for the P3K6 BMAT programs, as well as instructor of record for Clinical 2 this semester. Nice to see you all. Welcome.
All right, and I know, is that everyone? Oh, Bree, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, folks. My name is Dr. Pickhour. I see a couple familiar faces and familiar names, and I'm looking forward to hearing about your wonderful clinical experiences.
Perfect. Thank you all. So we're all excited for you all to join us. We wanted to kick off with some interaction, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bacon, who will explain how we're going to start out in breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Before we do that, I want to acknowledge that Dr. Prophet is here. So
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. There's a lot of boxes here.
Thank you. Dr. Prophet, sorry, I can't see everyone's screen. You want to introduce yourself real quick? Oh, there you are.
Hi, I know I was in the background, my camera off, but hello everyone. I'm Dr. William Prophet. Nice to meet you all. I've had some of you all in my classes, and I'm one of the professors here at Montclair State in the Teaching and Learning Department. Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis, Dr. Valetti.
Okay. So Dr. Valetti, if you can either make me co-host or run the breakout room.
Sorry.
I have the breakout rooms ready.
Oh, perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
Okay, so then let me explain what's happening. So Diana is going to put you all into breakout rooms, and we just have 4 questions for you to chat about, just to have a little bit of interactive time, thinking about what you're looking forward to, and maybe sharing and giving some support on things you're nervous about. So the 4 questions are: what do you know so far about your internship site? What are you most excited about for your clinical intern experience? What are you nervous about for your clinical intern experience? And then maybe provide your peers as you converse.
Yeah. She like, what the fuck? Why would she do that? In that case, I'll ask Margot to borrow money. Keep the $40 and you need more than I do.
Mute
Really
Augustina.
best send me 100 because I needed to.
August. Okay, thank you. And then finally, please provide some feedback as you're conversing on capitalizing on your strengths and navigating challenges. We will all go into breakout rooms, and we're
All right, so I can take over from here. So thank you for engaging with that. We were just saying how it was nice to kind of hear some conversations, hear some excitement, some nerves, and it's really a nice way to start this orientation because it just sets the ground for the peer group that you have for the upcoming year. And this group is a special one that you'll grow close to because living through the clinical experience is something, very unique and really special. So thanks for engaging in that little chat. With us before we get started on all the logistics. So, first of all, we want to start with just kind of guiding you to some places where you can find a lot of information. So, you were emailed out the spring 2026 Clinical One Handbook. The handbook is really a guide that you can use for the entire semester. It has a whole lot of information on there from the assessments to responsibilities, deadlines, everything like that. So really take the time to read over that. There's a link directly to that handbook right on this PowerPoint. But there's also a teacher ed program Canvas community page, which hopefully everyone has already joined. But if not, we definitely recommend joining that community because, again, it has all of the information, including the handbook, listed on there. We also wanted to just make you aware that we also have a public cooperating teacher website that we share with all of our CTs. So all of your CTs should have received this information, but it's helpful for you to know that that exists. So in case your CT says like, oh, I can't find the assessment, or do you know where the observation schedule is? You can always guide them to that website as well, because all of the information for them is on that website. And the handbook, actually, it's just one handbook for everyone. So all of your mentors are receiving the same handbook. All of the cooperating teachers are receiving the handbook. So everyone's receiving the same document so that everyone can be aware of all the information that all the parties are getting. All right, so that's where you find the stuff. Now for today, if you wouldn't mind signing in with that QR code just so we can keep track of attendance, we would greatly appreciate that. So we're just going to start out with a little bit of an overview of what your clinical year is going to look like. We'll go over some important dates, clinical hours, talk about clinical practice as a collaborative experience, and then go over a whole lot of other details and planning ahead to Clinical 2 already. And then we'll obviously leave some time for questions at the end to make sure that everyone is feeling good about getting started next week.
Dr. Valetti, all of
Yeah.
those links and the attendance are in the chat for those
Perfect.
who need
Thank
it.
you. Yes, and just stop me if there are questions that I can't see the chat or people right now. So just let me know. Feel free to interrupt me at any time. All right, so just to kind of start off, we want to give you a vision of what your entire clinical year looks like. So you all are starting Clinical 1, and the goal here is to make sure that you're ready for Clinical 2, where it's this full-time experience. So Clinical 1 is really offering our teacher interns a structured, supportive introduction to the full range of teaching responsibilities. The overarching goal is for interns to demonstrate that they're ready to assume a full range of teaching responsibilities during Clinical 2. So for Clinical 1, which is spring 2026, you all are starting hopefully next week and have set aside the 2 days that you'll be going weekly to your placement. You'll notice the end date is May 8th. So even though there's 175 hours minimum, which we're going to talk about, the end date does remain at May 8th. So meaning in case you reach your hours by April 30th, that doesn't mean that you can end on April 30th. Everyone does need to continue until our end date. I know a question has come up, so I'll address it before it probably will come up here. What about, the fact that the semester ends before that? We are aware of that. This is kind of a common practice. The only reason this may shift is based on what the date of graduation is, which hasn't been announced yet. So if it happens to change, we will let you know. But for now, everyone does need to remain in their placement until May 8th. So like I said, it's 175 hours. That is a minimum. I will say that the majority of students surpass that 175 hours, but that's the minimum required by the state. And you track your hours in Anthology. So in Anthology, once you log in, I know they're still setting that up, but you'll see that there's a place for you to actually track your hours, and then your CT will sign off on those hours. So they'll go in and actually just sign it, and that's the record that we use for the state. Co-requisite is Seminar 1. So all of you are registered for a Seminar 1 course, which will likely be meeting probably either next week or the week after. And during that class is your chance to kind of share what you're seeing. You'll have some assignments, which we'll talk about a little later, but that's the course that correlates with Clinical 1. And then finally, if you are absent, we'll talk about this in a little bit also, but just make sure that you're informing your CT and your mentor. That just means your hours won't be logged. Since it is only 2 days a week, you could often find a day to make up that day in case something comes up, but just make sure that you're always in communication with your CT. And then looking ahead to your Clinical 2, barring any extenuating circumstances, you will be in the same classroom, and then you will start back up when the teachers start up, which is before the semester begins at Montclair. So just be prepared for that. August 24th, and then we haven't decided the end date yet, but it'll be in December before the holiday break. And that is when you're full-time, 5 days a week. You are taking Seminar 2, which very much focuses on the job market and getting your resume and cover letter and portfolio ready for job searches. And that's when you're going all day, every day. There's no hour requirement for Clinical 2. It's just 5 full days a week. And so the way that attendance works for that is you just let us know when you are not going to be there. Okay, but that's forthcoming next semester. All right. So looking at this as a collaborative experience, you have so many people supporting you throughout this year. So here you are at the center to the clinical intern. All of us on this call are making up part of the TLRN clinical team, and we'll provide obviously support and nurturing as needed. But then you also have 3 very important people that are kind of with you day in and day out. Your cooperating teacher obviously plays a pivotal role. Your university mentor, who is going to be the one that's coming to observe your lessons, and then your seminar instructor, who will be teaching both Seminar 1 and Seminar 2 next semester. So what role do these people have? The CT is your on-the-ground mentor. They are probably the one that sees you day to day and can be modeling effective teaching practices, facilitating reflective conversations, and really helping you gradually work towards taking on more responsibility in the classroom. Then the university mentor, you will be hearing from, and they will support you through your observations, also do debriefings with you. They'll help you arrange, collaborative observations with your CT, and this is meant to be a year-long mentorship. In other words, once you are assigned a mentor for Clinical 1, again, barring any circumstances that need to be changed, you will have that same mentor for Clinical 2 as well. So both the CT, the mentor, and the seminar instructor will be with you for the entire clinical experience. And then the seminar instructor is there to really help you make that bridge between your academic preparation and your classroom experience. So they will have assignments that'll help you engage in that work and just kind of help oversee any challenges that may come up as well. All right, so here are some responsibilities. I'm going to pass it over to Miss Martino, who's going to take it over.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Valetti. Hi, everyone again. Okay, so intern responsibilities for Clinical One. Um, Basically, from the minute you hit the door and put your foot down in that building, you want to start building relationships, meaning, saying hello to the custodial staff, the secretary, whoever you encounter. You want to make a great first impression, which I know you will. And so it really is a year, we call it a year-long job interview, and it really starts from that first day that you do enter the building. Reflect, I would keep an old-fashioned notebook. You can take notes however you'd like, but seems like just an old-fashioned spiral notebook can help. Just putting your reflections down on, student behavior, the learning processes, people that you encounter, so reflection is so um critical, especially, well, in clinical too, as well, but in Clinical One, and because what you're going to see in Clinical One, I always think it's like the foundation for Clinical Two, and you'll see how you grow and develop and how maybe some of your reflections change as well. So, and then of course, teach. You're going to co-teach. You're going to do lesson planning in the breakout room. I think it was we had a great breakout room. I think it was Rachel that said, you're really looking forward to teaching, to, lesson plan and just really, really get going, right? So that made me happy. And then of course there'll be assessment and lead instruction as well, and you'll receive a lot of feedback. From your CT, from your cooperating teacher. So you want to take that all in. Like I said, in the breakout room, you want to take that all in, and just remember they're doing this because they want to help you as well. So be open to their comments. Engage professionally in the school community and demonstrate inclusive dispositions. Obviously, we stress inclusion, and you just want to be open to the district, to their rules and regulations, but also the people that make up the district and community. So, just once again, building relationships with members of your class and school community inside and outside. That'll be some of your peers in your seminar class. Always observe what is happening, the who, what, why, how, and when. Record the details, but do be careful of confidentiality. Don't use students' names. Someone could pick up your notebook, kind of have your own little code, but definitely write down certain student observations. Certainly leave any, hopefully there are none, but there's no room for bias at all of any kind. Reflect on what is happening while checking your assumptions and just checking on yourself as well through inquiry and reflection. Connect your observations with course content, right? So you're gonna, be in your Clinical One placement and say, oh, I did learn that in such and such a class. Wow, now I'm seeing it in real time, right? And take initiative. Ask what you can do. Always kind of work the room. Ask your cooperating teacher, what you can do to help as well. Okay, that's a lot, but these are very important points. Okay, next. Yeah, professionalism. You are guests in the classroom. You want to professionally dress and behavior. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to go out and buy all new clothes, but you want to look professional. It could be a nice pair of black pants, a nice blouse. If you don't feel you have the proper clothes, come over here to Rocky's Closet on campus. There's some really nice, gently used clothes there. And I always say this when I go to a wedding, I'd rather be a bit overdressed than underdressed. I know that's kind of silly, but you want to be more overdressed than underdressed. And you could even speak to your cooperating teacher as well and say, what do you feel is proper? Is this okay? Type of thing. Approach your placement with curiosity, not only of the students, but also, what the schedule looks like, and always assume good intentions. And I keep saying the breakout room, but we had a really good discussion. When in doubt, ask. It's all about the open communication with your cooperating teacher. And if there's anything you don't know if you should ask or how to navigate anything, that's why we are here, your TLRN clinical team. Give me a call. I can set up a Zoom with you, and I'm happy to help you, navigate anything you're unsure of. Okay? Okay. Okay, so the clinical hours, it's a 175-hour requirement, okay? That is the state's requirement. It's the minimum requirement. You can go in the spring. There's a little more wiggle room there. You can go later if you'd like to and exceed 175 hours. We are never going to tell you not to keep going. However, you can't accrue the 175 hours in say like March, which would probably be almost impossible, and then say, okay, I'm done. No, you have to go to the end date, which is May 8th. Okay. But you can go over. We're going to talk about absences a little bit down the road, but if God forbid, this time of year, you're ill or there's an emergency, whatever, hopefully not. You would speak to me and your cooperating teacher, and you want to leave some wiggle room after May 8th too, in case you have to make up some time. It does happen. Okay. So, we could talk about that. That's a case by case basis, but don't fly off somewhere on vacation on May 9th because you might need that time unless you take me with you. No, I'm only kidding. Okay. So, the set schedule is collaborate with your CT, establish, this is a very common question that I get. They're usually very flexible. A lot of you work, which is totally understandable. So you want to pick 2 days that are good for you, and then just make sure that they're okay with your CT. Planning time, try to set up a regular weekly meeting, even if it's for 10 minutes. If it could be the same things happen in classrooms, but if it could be the same day, say you go on Mondays and Wednesdays, say every Wednesday or something during prep time or whatever. But you do want to sit down with your cooperating teacher. You'll track your hours, like Dr. Valetti said, in Anthology, and they're approved by your cooperating teacher. So once again, the last date is May 8th, regardless of when you complete the 175. So it would be 2 full days, 120 hours in the home classroom. And then the remaining hours, you can do a bunch of different things. Be encouraged going to meetings, teacher meetings, Board of Ed meetings, as long as it's approved by your cooperating teacher. A back to school night, a theater production, whatever. But a lot of that is in the handbook as well. And if you have any questions, just ask me. Okay. Next. Okay. Preparing for observation. So you want to read that rubric, that's in the handbook and the criteria. Okay. You want to see what that cooperating teacher is going to be looking for. Okay. Review the rubric early and throughout the semester. You want to have the same, there's kind of like benchmarks throughout the semester. And you also want to be on the same page, what your cooperating teacher is expecting by a certain time. You want to do your best to make sure that you're meeting that. Okay. And, everybody progresses differently. Okay. You may not be on target as one of your peers, but that's when more communication is needed and more support. And we try to get you there. You're going to have a university mentor come out. It's new, only the last few semesters do we have university mentors go out for Clinical 1. They used to only go out for Clinical 2. So it's a great thing because they're another resource for you, another support, means of support. So you'll have 2 observations by your university mentor. They're not surprised. You will set the days and times with them, and they will sit down, and you'll have a pre and post observation with them. And you'll be, the university mentor will be available for you throughout the semester. Of course, you have to be respectful of times, not 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, unless it's an emergency, but they're going to tell you how best to reach them and what times are good. And you want to invite the cooperating teacher to also sit down with the mentor, let them get to know each other, because that mentor and cooperating teacher, barring any extenuating circumstances, will follow you to clinical too, right? So it's important that those relationships get going early, and also that they get to know each other a little bit too. And then, you're going to discuss everything in seminar. Well, maybe not everything, but a great deal with your instructor and your peers. Okay. And that's a good place to kind of bounce ideas off, challenges, maybe look for other ideas, other ways of doing things. Okay. In seminar one, that would be seminar one. Okay.
Thanks, Gina.
You're welcome.
So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into these observations and assessments that you'll have. So some of this is we talked about. So clinical practice, we've said it many times, 175 hours. One thing we want to make sure, again, we've expressed this, but reiterate that you are following the district calendar, not Montclair's. So in other words, you're not going to have Montclair's spring break. You're going to have, Bloomfield spring break if you're in Bloomfield. So if you haven't already, I would highly suggest downloading your district calendar and putting those days off into your phone so that you can pre-plan for that, especially if you're planning to go on Mondays. There's a lot of times Mondays are off from school for a lot of long weekends in the spring, or Fridays. So just be mindful of that and kind of have that plan in your mind. So the lessons that Ms. Martino mentioned. So you are going to be teaching, hopefully, a lot more than what you're actually going to get observed by your mentors. So we are hoping that you'll plan and implement at least 3 learning segments with your cooperating teacher. So those are lessons that, you can be co-teaching with your cooperating teacher. Those are really just meant to kind of get you teaching and as much as possible. So ideally, again, you want to be thinking about that gradual increase in responsibility. So those are not formal lesson observations, but we really just say that to make sure that you're getting that experience in teaching lessons with your CT, but also alone if possible. And then the 2 formal lesson plans, those are the ones that will be observed by your mentor, and we'll show you the target dates for that in a minute. You are expected for those lesson plans to be using the program lesson plan template, which is linked there, but all of you have been taught with this template through your classes. And so that's the template that we ask you to use throughout the clinical year for the mentor observed lesson. So for the 6 lessons, 2 in clinical 1, 4 in clinical 2, those are the ones that you'll be using our template. For other ones, if you choose to use a different type of template or something that your CT uses, that's okay. But the formal observed ones need to use the template. And then participating in observations and meetings. So let me go to the next slide. It shows you these assessments a little bit better. Well, first, let me talk about seminar. So for seminar 1, I already hit upon this a little bit, but really a chance to reflect, prepare for clinical 2. There are going to be assignments from your instructor that, just like any other course, but the main assignment for seminar 1 is what we call the PTAL. It's the planning, teaching, assessing, learning. You will learn about this once you start up your class in a couple weeks, but it's basically a lesson plan that you're really digging deep into, reflecting on, planning for, and analyzing the assessment. So there's 3 parts to it. Again, you'll get a lot more detail on this. But one of the components is that we do ask if it's possible for you to videotape the lesson, that you can do that so that you can then watch the video and reflect, and your professor watches it as well. But if you run into any trouble with that, it's not required to videotape. We know that some schools have some strict rules on that. So, but it's really, that's the main assessment, which you'll learn about in seminar. All right. One thing to note is that clinical and seminar are linked courses. In other words, you have to pass both of them. If you do not receive a passing grade in clinical 1, then you will not receive a passing grade in seminar 1. In other words, you have to either pass them both or you don't pass them both. Hopefully no one gets in that situation. But just a reminder that a passing grade for undergrad students is a B-, and for grad is a C- or better. Okay, so here are the list of assessments. Once Anthology is all set up and you have access to that, you'll log in and you will see all of these forms populated in your Anthology. So Your cooperating teacher is going to be filling out a midpoint assessment and then a final assessment, two final assessment forms that are really just looking holistically at your time for Clinical 1. None of those forms are tied to any specific lesson. It's just overall looking at how you grew over the semester and whether or not they feel that you are ready to progress into Clinical 2. So that's what the cooperating teacher is doing, along with, of course, giving ongoing feedback. Your university mentor is filling out 2 formal observations on anthology, and those are tied to a specific lesson. So you'll notice on this schedule over here that the target date is somewhere around February 16th week. These are all flexible dates. They are not set in stone, but we give these guidelines just to make sure that, it's not April that you're doing your first observation. Obviously, we want these to be spread out a little bit so you can hopefully showcase some growth. So that's kind of the target date for the first mentor observation. And then you'll see March 9th is when the CT submits their midpoint. At that time, we do review all of those to make sure there's no areas of support that we could provide. And then later on in March, beginning of April, is when we target the second observed lesson. Then you'll see kind of the final assessments in May 8th, last day of Clinical 1. All right, so those are the assessments. Again, once you log into Anthology, probably by the end of the month, you'll see everything set up in there and you'll see all those forms and you have access to them as soon as they get put up on Anthology. So you view them at the same time as your seminar professors. And then obviously your seminar instructor is providing coursework and the PTAL that I discussed to provide some other additional assessments and feedback. All right, so Anthology. Some of you, well, you all know Anthology in some regard because you've had to upload some assignments there in some classes, but this is where you are going to keep track of all of your hours. So there is, when you log into Anthology, you'll be able to see a time log where you literally say, January 21st, I was there from 8 to 3, 7 hours, and then your CT has access to go in and sign off on all those hours. So you have a little bar that populates as you get closer to your 175, so you can keep track of your hours, and Dr. Bacon and myself can monitor that as well, along with your seminar professors, just to make sure everyone is on track. And again, that's where you will see all the formal assessments. Instruction materials and access, that should be up by hopefully the beginning of February. It's a lot of work to input all of the information, and we want to make sure that everything is kind of set before we put the work to populating that, because CTs change, mentors change, and so be on the lookout for that. We will let you know once everything has been populated, and then if you do see an issue, you can always reach out to Anthology at montclair.edu. They are very quick to respond and very, very helpful. So there's always some, little tweaks that need to be done, but it's always an easy fix. All right, and then some important dates to keep in mind and put into your calendar. So we already had our first day of university classes, and here you all are on January 21st. So next week is your start of Clinical 1. So hopefully you have set up your schedule and you're looking forward to starting that. We have an HIB requirement that is a state requirement. That's Dr. Davis will be talking about it in a minute, but that'll be due March 9th. The midpoint comes in March 13th. And then all of the Anthology assessments are due May 1st. That allows us a kind of a week of wiggle room to make sure that we have all of the assessments to be able to issue the final grades on time. May 4th is the last day of class, and then May 8th as last day of Clinical 1. And just kind of looking ahead, actually just today, we were able to solidify your Clinical 2 orientation, which is going to be in person on campus. That's a much bigger event with different types of sessions and things and speakers. So if you could please mark your calendar, especially since it's summertime, August 24th. The exact time will be announced. It'll be in the afternoon, but it'll be on campus. So please make sure you have that day free. And that is also the week when Clinical 2 begins. The exact start date depends on when the first day that your teacher reports back. Since all of you are doing Clinical 1 right now, you have the advantage of having that conversation with your teacher when you leave in May, telling them to, you'll know what your first day of school is based on the district calendar, but maybe coming up with a plan with them to see, when their first day of professional development is. It could be that week, it could be the next week. So whenever your teacher is coming in, that's the first day of your clinical too. Okay, and then same thing, we already mentioned this, but in both clinical and 1 and 2, you do not follow Montclair State's calendar, you follow the district's calendar. That
Excuse me.
also,
Oh,
yep, go ahead.
Priya,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
I
no.
have gotten a few emails this morning.
Hmm.
Just we're expecting kind of a large storm this
Yes.
coming Monday. They're not sure yet, but
Hmm.
once again, you would follow the if the district is closed, because I know some folks are starting this Monday. And
Yeah.
we always say your safety comes first. So, you can always make up that day at a later date, but
Hmm.
never ever get in, drive when you don't feel safe. So, we'll see what happens with Monday, but I just wanted to let everyone know.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I mean, communication is key, right? So if, like Miss Martino said, you have the flexibility since you're there 2 out of the 5 days. If there is, maybe your district is not closed, but you live up in a town where the roads haven't been plowed yet, just communicate and make sure that, I'm your CT will likely very much understand. We never want you to put yourself in danger, but communication is key just to make sure that they know not to expect you.
And
All right.
before we go to our next section,
Yep.
let us know how you're feeling about the presentation. If you have questions, how are you feeling about clinical? Drop something in the chat for us. We're over here listening.
It certainly is a lot, and we really do want to hear from you. So I'm going to share with you two important details. One is the praxis. You can certainly, by show of hands or your reaction, indicate where you are in your praxis journey. I believe that there are 4 tests: math, social studies, science, and language arts or literacy. You have to get passing scores in order for the state to issue for with us to issue your license. Believe you have a number of times to take. So if you're not successful the first time, certainly re-up. But with that, I certainly am not as steeped and knowledgeable in and about praxis than my colleagues are. So there are 2 people in the program who are assigned to just talking to you all things praxis. They are located in the suite on the 3rd floor, Donna Kabza and Greta Guevara. They are available, and I do encourage you to strongly reach out to them with any questions that you have around praxis, registration, fees, tickets, those kinds of things. The other piece was mentioned has to do with the harassment, intimidation, bullying, HIB prevention requirement. This is a state law, and you might think, there's so many things that come down, and you learned about diversity and being responsive to different kind of learners and people in your classes. Well, not all teachers are, and not all schools have been that way. So actually, this is the trajectory of actions and things that have happened way back in 2003. There were bullying incidents that caused people to become violently harmed, and also a number of people who lost their lives around not being accepted and certainly not being heard and feeling valued. And a lot of that blame or finger pointing, rightly or wrongly, coming at teachers, feeling that schools did not do what they needed to do. And sometimes you'll hear teachers say, they don't know what to do, or they don't know where the resources are. So the HIB prevention requirement is designed to make sure that you have a base level understanding of what your expectations are as a mandatory reporter and also a teacher and being responsive. The law is listed here. Again, like, this is more than a compliance task. It is about a foundational responsibility. And if you are, and we all are, in the business of helping children to grow and be safe, you have an expectation, and you should have welcomed the opportunity to make sure students are feeling safe, included, and supportive in their classroom environments. This is professional and ethical work, and a value that you should have as a professional educator, licensed educator. So there are learning modules. Everyone is required to complete the 5 designated ones. They're all online. You'll take or access the modules through Vector. Some of your instructors will be notified once your models are complete, so people are monitoring on the backside, and you should expect to receive detailed instructions by mid-January. I don't Has anyone received information on the HIB yet?
No, that I would say probably the last week of January. So that'll
Okay.
come from the clinical internships email there, and actually your seminar professors will also follow up.
So certainly stay tuned for that and do be responsive to it when it comes to you. The next thing that I'll share has to do with just planning ahead. Um, there's a lot of moving parts here, and the better organized you are, the more positive and favorable your experience will be. All courses, as have been shared, need to be completed by fall 2026, the end of that semester. Clinical 2 is full time, according to your cooperating teachers contract. You're going to follow that contract. 15 or 30 minutes prior to the start of the school time and 15 to 30 minutes to the end of school time. So just when the students are leaving doesn't mean that's when you leave. You want to follow the time that your cooperating teacher reports in and reports out. Again, as was shared, important for you to follow the school's calendar, the school district's calendar, not Montclair State's. If you are in Clinical 2, there is an orientation, or to begin that, there'll be an orientation on August the 24th to help you in the same way that we're preparing you for Clinical 1. You're going to get information that's specific to that experience. And this will happen likely before the university reopens. We do ask you to plan for your course fees during Clinical 2. There is a $450 tuition bill. In an ideal world, none of us would have to pay for clinical work, but this is where we are. And so now, if you have an opportunity to work, save up, maybe ask some people to help you out, know that you'll have a $450 tuition bill that coincides with your Clinical 2. And then again, for Seminar 2, you are expected to enroll in the same seminar section that you're in for this semester. And now I will pass it off to Jess. Dr. Bacon.
All right. So thank you all for all that wonderful information. So just to kind of sum up what we've gone through so far, so successful teacher interns are really great communicators. And I can't stress this enough. If you have something come up, if you're worried about something, if you need to be absent, be sure you're communicating with your whole team, your CT, with your mentor, with your seminar instructor. If the issues feel bigger with us, with myself, with Diana, with Dr. Valetti, with Dr. Davis, and so on, this whole team. Make sure that you're open to constructive feedback and recognize that CTs are here to guide and support you. I think that's another really important thing. Sometimes it's hard to hear negative feedback, but I think none of us are have ever reached a pinnacle of being a perfect educator. Even people who have been doing it for decades, there's always room for growth and from learning from others. And so I think teachers who think through feedback, who accept feedback, and who are responsive to feedback are educators who grow and do the best during their clinical year. Implementing suggestions that are given to you by your CTs and also your mentors for growing and building on your strengths. We know you all are going to have a lot of strengths, and you're also going to have areas that you need to work on because you're new, and that's the purpose, right? You're not expected to walk in and be a master teacher. The purpose of this clinical year is for you to learn and grow into the field. Be sure you're handing in your lesson plans early so that you can get feedback from your CTs and from your mentors for the ones they're coming for. Immerse yourself in the school culture. Seize every opportunity to participate with staff. If you like this school, think of it as a year-long job interview, and really get to know everybody across the whole school community, including families and students. We already said this about being proactive and communicating, but make sure that before things get really bad, let your team know that there's a concern that you have. If you have a concern about things going on in the school, let us know. If you have concerns about yourself or something going on in your own life, again, let your team know. And always come see us sooner than later if you're struggling. Okay, so to just remind you all, this is an interactive slide here with everybody's email, and these are the people and the roles that everybody has. Do you want me to read through all these? So Gina Martino, I know you all know, she's the program specialist and the one who has done your placements. Diana, who's here, is the clinical partnership coordinator. Diana, do you want to say more about your role, or do you feel like you already shared
No, I
more?
think it's just good for you to know that I may be emailing you and come visit your school, and I'm here to support cooperating teachers. So if your CTs have any questions or concerns, they can reach out to me anytime, and I can also come out to schools and do site visits if there's any concerns coming up.
And I think the rest of us already said who we are in the intros. So, yeah.
Yep. Okay, so you'll see who you contact for certain things. Oh wow, I'm right there on top. So it would be clinical 1 and 2 placement logistics and concerns. Anything that that you're finding challenging, that you're unsure of, clarify, please come to me first. If you want to copy your seminar instructor or your mentor, that is fine, or both. But if you would come to me first, then I'll know who to include, if we're looking for resolution on a certain issue. And then as Ms. Troutner said, she's responsible for CT support going out in our districts. The seminar instructors, the clinical 1 assessments, seminar course requirements. Ms. Alicia Boone, she's not on the call, I don't believe, but she's in charge of our university mentor program. A few of you have not, have emailed me that you didn't receive your mentor's name yet. I know she's finalizing a few things. We had a meeting this morning, so we appreciate your patience. I'm sure you'll be hearing from her shortly, but any mentor inquiries should go to Ms. Boone. Health knowledge test, HIB, like we just talked about, sublicense, that would go to the clinical internships at montclair.edu. There'll be a live person behind there. And also, if your CT has any questions on their payment or obtaining any forms from us to get paid, the same email. And I encourage you with anything regarding honorariums or payment for your CT to pretty much, I don't know how else to say it, don't get involved, just have them contact us, okay? Because we want you concentrating on what you need to concentrate on. Anthology issues, you can email anthology@montclair.edu for troubleshooting or clinical internships, and we'll see if we can help you. If not, we'll send it over to the anthology team. Okay, accommodations. If anyone feels they need an accommodation for their placement, obviously placements have already been done and you're heading out there next week. But if there's anything that comes up or you need to talk to the Disability Resource Center, they're right on campus. And certification details and processes, that would be Dr. Caroline Murray, who's housed in the ADP Center. Okay, you'll be hearing a lot from her. You'll be getting a lot of emails, especially as you get closer to the end of clinical 2. Okay.
I see Dr. Paul has a comment.
Yes, I do. I just want to emphasize that, again, it was placed in the chat, but I want you to be very clear about this. Ms. Martino is your first point of contact. Your first point of contact. She's done this for many years. She's excellent at what she does.
Thank you.
And therefore, you're in very safe hands. You're not to, if you see something going on in the classroom, you're not sure, there's a question about payment, as Ms. Martino said, don't get into that. Keep the lines clear. Don't blur the lines. Anything like that you are concerned about, you have an issue with, go to Miss Martino and let her run interference for you. Keep your relationship with your CT pure and specific to you learning and getting as much as you can from the experience.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Paul.
You're welcome.
And I just want to point out there's a couple questions in the chat, but I know we're almost
Yes.
right.
So I did want to